I'm gonna say the N-word. New time! Digi. What are you doing? What are you doing, Digi? You just made a 40-minute video defending your right to use the N-word. That's it. That's the response. Bye, guys. That's it. We're done. Digi, you talk about Sargana Fakad getting deplatformed for it, and how you're upset that he didn't apologize, but then you're also doubling down yourself in saying that you just, like, performatively apologize or whatever, and he's, like, martyring himself. Like, Digi, come on. Come on, Digi. I want, first of all, before we get into this, before I start parsing all of your shit, before I get on why you shouldn't be making a 40-minute video defending your use of it, I want to say that you share a lot of yourself, and you put a lot of yourself there, and I don't want to diminish that in cherry-picking all of the stuff you say, because all of it is kind of bad, but I want to give concessions to you here, and I want to get it out of the way really fast that because you have suffered it's not a reason to hold that against people. You can't hold yourself to your standard. You can't show your scars and use those to, like... Showing your scars and making yourself vulnerable isn't an act that is supposed to give you special privilege or power or any kind of show. It's when you bear your scars and then use those to say everyone should work against those. That's obviously everyone should work against those. Everyone's trying with what they have to move past their scars. Some people stay in it. Some people use that, but you're using it right now. You're using your scars to punch down on other people whose aren't the same, whose are the same. You're just being a dick. Like, I want, first and foremost, to zero in on the big thing that you have an issue with, that you take umbrage with, that you get way too invested in talking about, and that's the cis white male thing. So, when black people, people of color in general, when women, when trans people, when, just gay people talk about the cis, white, straight man as like the big bad guy, they're not, of course, talking about all cis people, all white people, all males. They're not doing that. What they are doing is they're taking that little tiny shot at the people above them, people who have perpetuated this, the people that are most empowered and emboldened by a system. They don't hate every white person. It's just the airing of their frustrations for the people who aren't overtly negatively impacted by it. And you've shown your things on it. You've talked about your problems, your insecurities, your issues. And privilege doesn't mean you have a leg up. It doesn't mean that you have all of the advantages. That's not what it means. Privilege is kind of a bad word to use for it. It's a shitty word for it. It's the kind of thing that people that get indoctrinated into the alt-right, people that get tricked into what the peddlers are selling, what Sargon of Akkad and his like sell, it's easy. It's easy to take identity politics, and if you're like the bad guy in it, if your team is the team that is the punching bag for the people who have been hurt by it, then it's easy for you to latch on to that and, you know, kind of give that energy back to the world. But what it means is it means you don't have the same barriers. See, privilege is a bad word because it makes it out that you're just so great and that everybody else is just, you know, they're victims. So maybe there's a talk here to be had for using words other than privilege. Using words other than privilege. And, like, yeah, that's like that. But the problem is black people have already been beaten down. People of color have already been beaten down for it. So they don't want to reinforce those bad things like in their community to them. So what happens sometimes is the being disgruntled at the people who benefit from a system but don't necessarily perpetuate it. I need to have this beer in my hand so I have a prop with which to ground myself in. So let's get to the N-word problem. Let's get to that. Because you say you have black friends, and I have black friends too. I'm from New Orleans. I continue to be from New Orleans. I live in New Orleans. New Orleans has a huge black population. Almost anywhere in the city you can go is kind of 50-50. Like, even the whitest ass area here I can go into, and there'll probably be like 30% black people. It is a very, very black city. And it's historically been kind of an interesting city from a history standpoint. Oh, and boy, history, Digi. The first thing you really open up with after the Sargon of Akkad thing is life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, which is the Declaration of Independence. Any history person can tell you that the Declaration of Independence is toilet paper. It's worthless, it's meaningless, it's nothing. The Declaration of Independence doesn't actually mean anything for really America. It's a symbolic paper. It's not a real binding actual like document that means shit. So I guess it's kind of telling that you open with that, because that was originally supposed to be life, liberty, and property. And you know why property wasn't put in there? It's because property places a weird dialogue on like whether that's a real right, if there are people who are literally property, who are bought and sold as property, who exist as property, and that is their entire existence. So it's kind of telling that you bring that up first, because black people don't have that exact thing. Like life, we have the death penalty. Liberty, we have prisons that disproportionately affect black people. Pursuit of happiness, yeah, sure, but prisons again. And obviously they can't be taken away without due process of law, but the law's a sham. Cops are protected by judges. Whenever there's a problem with a cop, they always bring it to a judge. Cops rarely go before a jury. Like they go with that, like Digi, one of the big things that you probably never had any particularly negative run-ins with the cops as a child. Black people, I've known black people who have never had issues with cops. It wouldn't be right of me to say that all black people have bad experiences with cops, but it's more common to be harassed by cops as a black person. These are known things. I don't even know why I'm going over these. But you have black friends. I have black friends. Most of my friends, in fact, are black. Most of my friends are racial minorities. So when I hear these friends talking, I inevitably hear racial issues. I inevitably hear this all. And I think the most shining example is I had a really good friend in high school. We don't really contact each other much anymore for various reasons. I probably should get around to saying hello to him. But you say you love your family and everything, and it's great. You clearly have had great parents, but a lot of black people have family issues. I really don't want to, generalize with this, but one of my friends, he basically just had his grandmother. So at one point, something happens, and he ends up going through a bunch of shit at school where he inevitably becomes expelled. And huge swaths of us just got really in with petitioning the school, petitioning the principals, like all this. And he eventually gets thrown out. Now, you might be wondering what this has to do with being a black person. And here's the thing. We had a white kid at school who called in a bomb threat on the school. And he was, taken in, and this was talked to about him. I think his parents came. Do you think he got expelled? Do you think any fucking thing at all happened to him? No. It fucking didn't. Because he was white. He had family who gave a shit. He had all this. This guy, his grandmother wasn't mobile. She couldn't go out and just do that. She couldn't go back and forth to the school to fight him on it. No. She couldn't. I have... Enough about my friends. Let's talk about racism in me. Let's talk about that for me. Because you see, I have heard landlords. I have heard them talk to property managers. And I have heard pretty much this exact conversation. Oh, so-and-so told me that you don't deal with the N-word. And Digi, you say no one called black people negatively the N-word with an A. They always did with a hard R. This was an A. This wasn't a hard R. It's diffused around the culture. Everyone says it with an A. Saying it with an R is just... You have to think about saying it with an R to say it with an R, even if it's out of malice, okay? People don't just say it with a hard R. That's rare. That's rare even among, super racist people. Just because it's diffused that much among the culture. So I've seen it play out where it's like, I heard from them, don't mess with them, and they're like, nah, I won't put them in your house unless I know them or this or that, and the person who initiated that starts taking that as an opportunity to constantly talk shit about black people, and it's horrifying to be on the other end of that. It's horrifying to see these power structures at work, and to see them deny black people housing, to see them deny black people jobs. I was looking for a job for months, sending in half a dozen resumes every week. Every 2 weeks I just sit down, go through all the resumes, send shit again. Cause what people will tell you when you get a job is you need to go bother people. You need to go places and bother them every day, but that's an old boomer trick. That's an old Gen Xer trick. That doesn't work for millennials. You keep doing that and you look like some dumbass who will have to be babysat on the job. That doesn't get you jobs. What gets you jobs where I'm in, for some fucking reason, are job fairs. These things that individual businesses put on to just go through 40 people in a day. And the way I got my job, after months and months of searching, is my dad tells me there's this like little fucking job fair thing in his work that isn't advertised on the site, that isn't advertised like fucking anywhere. I don't know how anyone got here. I guess some other people told them about it. Like, so that was a whole thing. I'm working now. It's shitty, but you know, it's a job. It's capitalism. You respect it. You respect that capitalism, oh boy. Oh boy, you respect it. You know, you don't think MasterCard or Patreon or whatever, you don't think they should be able to kick you off, but you know, that's capitalism. Welcome to it. So I've talked about my horrific experiences with racism. You know, like, you talk about, like, Jay-Z and shit, like, people don't call them that anymore, they don't, like, know the struggle, they knew it when they were young, but, like, let me ask you something. You think white people have, like, a little pocketbook that they take out that has every famous black person in it, and they, like, fiddle through it real fast whenever they see a black person come by before they decide to be racist against them? No. Jay-Z? I don't know what the fuck Jay-Z looks like. Jay-Z could walk like 2 feet in front of me and I wouldn't know. And I wouldn't give a shit, frankly. Like, that doesn't matter to me. Digi. You say you have black friends and that they think it's fine for you to use the N-word, which, okay. But then you mention Zen Huxtable, and I'm sorry to use you as a prop. If you see this, I am sorry. But Digi has made you into a prop. He has mentioned you by name in this, and he's used you. He's made you into a prop, so I have to, because he's thrown you down as a kind of talking point for this. You say that he says that he has a problem with it. He has a knee-jerk reaction to it. He doesn't like the word, but he's taken it upon himself to deal with it, to have it bother him less, and that you respect that process. You respect that. Digi. What the fuck are you doing, Digi? What are you doing? You respect that he's trying to not have a reaction to the N-word? And you're using that in your 40-minute video to defend your use of the word? Digi, you just sound like a shitty friend. I'm sorry, you just sound like a shitty friend. You're told, or you watch a video of a friend saying he's not okay with the word and he's trying to get better with the word, and you then use that as part of your argument that people should be able to say it, but then you say that doesn't mean nothing coming from me, a white guy. Fam, you seem to have, I guess, respect for his opinion, but not for him, because if you get told this, and then your reaction is just kind of to say, I respect it, and move on, and not try to make your content more friendly to him, or just not make a 40-minute video defending your right to say the word that hurts him, that's fucked up. Digi, if you see this video and you take nothing else from it, please take it that you have, like, done something against your friend, in that you need to have a very personal, very, like, private apology to him, or at least a discussion about this, because if that was me, man, I'd be considering your value as a friend right now, because people are going to see that. If people go to him from like your content from that video, like, he's going to be the guy that Digibro used to excuse his ability to, his right to say the N-word. He's going to be that guy. He's going to be that guy Digi used to defend the N-word. And that's what they'll be known as to those people. That's fucked up. That's all he'll be to some people. And like, if his friends see that, if people who are cool with him see that, they'll ask him like, you and Digi are friends, you're cool with that? And he might have to like have a serious consideration. He might have to like put a numerical value on your friendship with him. That's fucked up. That's a fucked up thing to do to someone. That's a fucked up thing to have to do. What the fuck is wrong with you, Digi? What's going on? What's going on, Digi? I've said I have black friends. I have a de facto N-word pass from one of them. And for a bit, I was wondering if that was ironically, if that was just given to me because he knew I wasn't like likely to use it, or at the very least not abuse it. He told me recently that it was unironic, and you know, I've said it a few times around him with like, you know, in private with him, like. But let me tell you what it means when a black person gives you the N-word pass, because you have to accept that the N-word is a word with venom. And for a black person to give you that pass, it means they trust, they love, or they respect you enough that that word coming from you is a word that has no malice towards them and either has no venom for them when you use it, or that they are willing to accept the venom that you put out into the world, into their air. Like, they're willing to accept that from you. Like, that's what that means. And maybe it's hard for you to really appreciate that because there's no real equivalent. Like, a lot of people would say that the N-word is like de facto violence. That is a word that in and of itself represents an act of violence, to say it. And you say that the words idiot and like dumb and all this shit are like, those used to be de facto like hate words, those used to be like slurs. And did you know that if you are like deaf or mute, and if you don't learn a language, you will become mentally disabled. You will become mentally impaired if you do not learn a language by, say, the age of 5 or something. So, mental institutions, like, especially before American Sign Language and like sign language in general, mental institutions would sometimes have deaf and mute people enter them because they didn't have a language. So they were mentally impaired. And, you know, mentally impaired people were just tossed in an asylum. Hell, people who were an inconvenience were thrown into asylum. That's how mental asylums work. That's how mental institutions work. That's how loony bins fucking worked. And I'm a person who has been institutionalized before. I have been put in a mental hospital. There is a reason why mental health advocates say that they shouldn't exist. They should not exist. They exist as a place, still, that people use institutional power to put them in. That people like are mistreated in. You're basically someone in there who's siphoned for your insurance money. That at least in America, that's what those are for. That's what most of medicine is in America. You know this. Like, I can't believe that you wouldn't know this. You have to. So I was institutionalized. This was in university. I'm still banned from there. Like, they misrepresented what a like a health withdrawal there was. And all of like the group I was in was like put upon. We were treated like shit over there. At one point I said I said to my friends, I'm like, this is like a really fucked up thing to say, but is this what it's like being a minority in America? And they're like, yeah, kind of. Just constantly being put down, just constantly being, and not like by people, not like by, individuals, not like by, oh, this guy is like doing shit to me. No. This was an institution putting a group of people in it down. It was the commuters. Okay, I'm not gonna... We were third-class citizens. You had the people who lived there, you had the students from the adjacent school, and then you had us. And you can ask anyone who was a commuter there who started out as a commuter at least. All of them attempted to kill themselves, or all of them were wanting to kill themselves. I remember being especially mad at one of them because they got like counseling immediately, and it took like 4 or 5 months to get into counseling. They had a few suicides while I was there, and what happened was they had one of them had attempted to climb up the parking garage and throw themselves off of it, but they lacked the strength to pull themselves over it. So instead, they laughed their way to the counselor's office and was like, hey, I just tried to throw myself over the thing, but failed to. And they immediately got people, so it's like, oh, never mind. Everyone's fucked up, Digi. But when we understand how fucked things are, we commiserate with each other. We try to ameliorate things. We try and suffer together instead of just saying, fuck everyone. I fucking tried to kill myself. What are you gonna say? Are you gonna say you were sadder than me? Oh, I love your Boogie Pop quote. People who don't make many connections when they're young, so they make like a lot of them when they're older. I don't know, Digi. You just... If there are two things like that this video has told me, it's that, one, you're not a good friend, and we'll get to that second one. But ooh, Digi. Oh, fuck it. Whew, Digi. Digi. I know you have black friends. Please, just talk to them. Just talk to them a little bit more. You wonder where the goalposts are moving, but you yourself haven't had like consistent ideas. You yourself have like had changes of opinion. You yourself say that 100 years ago words used to have different meanings and were slurs. So like that you're saying that the word should lose power or something, like, if it moves the other way, you should be able to read that. You should be able to say, whoa, opinions have changed. You shouldn't say, it's fucked up that they've like changed in the way that I wouldn't have them change, in the way that I wouldn't think they've changed. Well, what can I say? Shit's more visible now. Everyone has a phone that's like connected to the internet at all times. Like, it's easy to see things. It's harder to look away than ever. And that you don't understand it is weird. Like, people who aren't hypocrites aren't interesting, and no one isn't a hypocrite. That's how it is. Like, I don't understand how certain things you can't see. You say, you talk about propaganda and like placating like the left or whatever, but and how you see through it, you don't see through it. You're sitting there in the fog and there are neon lights around you, and you think you're seeing through the fog, but the neon lights are just reflecting back off the fog and blinding you. Okay? They're blinding you, Digi. You're the kind of people, you're the kind of person that people can drop black crime statistics on, that people can drop like black IQs, like IQ statistics on you, and you wouldn't look for like all the socioeconomic things that cause this. You'll extrapolate the easiest way to interpret that without other data. Like if you're lost navigating this, like you are unironically a perfect target for that kind of thing. I feel like, you know, maybe that wouldn't hit you now. I feel like maybe you're old enough to actually see through people trying to manipulate you to that path, but Digi, it's a 40-minute video defending your use of the N-word, getting mad that you might not be able to use it because marketing? Digi, your whole video is marketing. Your Twitter is asking for PewDiePie to look at it. I'm not sure if your video is supposed to be damning or a joke if you're tagging him in that. Like, talk to your friends, Digi. Talk to your black friends, please. I feel like whatever criticism you get from the outside, you just won't give a shit about. But I know for a fact that you have like black friends who maybe will have to think about their friendship with you, who can talk to you about this, who can help you parse and understand it, who can maybe change your outlook and your opinion like as a whole. And maybe if you do that, you'll consider it good. Ooh, I just think that the top of your hubris, the edge of your logic, it's especially damning when you think that you, as someone that the word has no power over, as someone who the word has never had any power over, like, get to choose, get to decide, get to think that the power of the word should dissipate when it hasn't, when racial tensions in a lot of ways are escalating, and I don't see how you think you can do it. I don't understand. It's hard to see someone whose brand is analysis, or you know, whose main channel brand is analysis, not be able to analyze this with more nuance than you are. It baffles me. It boggles my mind. It hurts me. And I think the consensus with your video is people aren't like mad. People aren't angry that you've made this video. People are upset and disappointed. We thought it's a 40-minute video defending your use of the N-word and your right to use the N-word. Like, it should have been a 2-minute video. It should have been you saying, this guy got deplatformed. I'm kind of upset about that. I will not stop using the N-word. If that makes you uncomfortable, avoid my content. That should have been it. That should have been it. Maybe that could have been, 10 or 20 minutes. Like, but it's a 40-minute video, Digi. That's the issue here. That is your sin. That is your mistake, is making that 40 minutes. It's so completely defending your right to say it that, I mean, I've said a lot of that. I've said a lot of what I really mean to say. And that these right-wingers are the ones coming under attack, and that, oh, their thing is free speech. They wouldn't fight it, so it's just them losing. Like, the left-wingers, nothing's gonna happen to them. That's also separate from reality. If you look at all of the college professors, we'll get to them. If you Republican speakers, right-wing speakers, I don't know why I said Republican, right-wing speakers in general, a lot of them have lists where if they're going to be at an event, if there's like a debate or something, they have a list of people that cannot fucking be there, or they won't go. They can't be there. It's just a list of leftists who cannot be there. You want to talk about, like, right-wing people, like Ben Shapiro, like, people who just feel entitled to a debate anywhere or reason and get upset when people don't want to, like, it's dumb. But back to college professors. If you look at, like, college professors who have been removed from universities for political reasons, you'll find that most of them aren't right-wing. In fact, it is many times more common for left-wingers to get put out. At my university, and this will give away the secret for anyone who wants to do like 2 minutes of research where I went. We have a professor, or we had a professor. I had a professor in the university I went to, who, before I went, was famous for, I think, an interview where he said, slavery is okay. Slavery would be fine, from a libertarian standpoint, if that slavery were voluntary. And yeah, I can, go for that. I can say yes to that, but here's the thing. For slavery to be voluntary, that, makes it not slavery. That completely nullifies what slavery is, and that would cease to be slavery. And it was Frederick Douglass who said that if you make a slave happy with being a slave, you have fundamentally broken a man. You have destroyed a human being to make someone okay with being a slave. And I mean, there's really nowhere to go with that because that was a one-off on this professor. He also, I learned this one from all of this is from Wikipedia. You can confirm all of this like with a quick thing on Wikipedia. I said his name right. It's Block, but you can look it up on Wikipedia. I think this was in 2014 too. He said this. It's blacks and women are less productive in the workforce. And I think he was questioned about why, and he says, as an economist, I am not suited to answer that question. And invariably he said something about IQ, which is, the objective racism thing, or like race realism or whatever, and anyone can tell you that IQ is like a crock of shit metric that doesn't really matter. It only matters if you care about Mensa, which is like probably the most pretentious group on the planet. And to give you an idea of that, the one of the founders of MIMSA was mad that they had a lot of like Philistine peasants that became part of it. Whew. Oh yeah, I still checked. Block is still a professor there, so happy Googling. Digi, there's one more thing I want to address. I know you say you consider yourself trans, and I'll give you that. I accept that certain gender non-conforming people or people with gender identities that are not just straight, just like male or female, like exist. And I accept that. I don't put up argument to that. It would be wrong of me to do so, especially given this context. But then you talk about like your Discord groups, like your big fans, and you say, they're trans? As if that's exact. I don't see how that attaches to the N-word, but I said I would give you the benefit of the doubt for putting so much of yourself into it. And remember Not Your Shields, how there were a bunch of people who were not like straight, white, cis males who were saying not to use them as like a shield against certain things. You're kind of using that Discord group as not only shield to defend yourself, but also as cudgel to strike back. And that isn't cool, man. That's just not cool. I think what I really want to say with this is, Digi, I've respected you for a long time. I've patroned you for a long time, even though I haven't really watched a lot of your videos lately. Because every so often you would come up and you would do something. You would, you know, you would do something that I found funny or profound, or something would happen, and it would just justify continuing to have you on Patreon. And really, I no longer respect you after this video. And really, your big sin here, your big issue is fundamentally that the sin of everyone else in your position. It's the sin of the anime con man. It's the sin of PewDiePie. It's the sin of Ninja. You really don't understand just how much power you have. Like, companies don't call social media personalities influencers because they have no power. They have very real power. 20,000 people, as of this recording, have watched your 40-minute defense of your use of the N-word. 10% of those people have liked it. A bit over 1% have disliked it, but YouTube metrics those don't really mean anything. But what if there's like a middle schooler who's like really, really into your content, and he hears your defense of the N-word, and he decides that the N-word is cool, the N-word is something that is more than acceptable for him to use, and he uses it, and he maybe says it to like a black kid, and it fucks that black kid up, or he gets like the shit beat out of him because he just said the N-word to a black kid. You have taken part of that. You're like culpable for that. That's something that you have indirectly participated in, and that's fucked up. That's screwed up that result can possibly come up with it. That's not outside the realm of possibility. And again, Digi, it's just that it's a 40-minute video, and it should have just been, I use the N-word. Many people take umbrage with that. This guy just got deplatformed for it, and I will continue to use it, and avoid me. Like, it's that easy. But as I said, I no longer have respect for you as it stands. Maybe you need to get deplatformed. Maybe that needs to happen for you to actually sit down and think about this real hard. But I don't want the 40-minute video to disappear. I want that to exist so that people can see it, and so that if you decide that that's no longer how you feel, or if you've done something by allowing that to exist, then you can apologize for it, or you can put new context on it. You owe one person a personal, private apology, and if you take nothing else from this, then please take that from it. And in the meantime, as I no longer have respect for you, I've got to pull the plug on my Patreon, and it's going towards people who I do respect and who I am comfortable giving my money. Goodbye, Digi. I'd say something that would upset you, but there's really no slur for white people that means anything to us. You know, you could call us like a honky or a cracker or a school shooter, Yakubian or something, but it doesn't matter. In fact, it's funny to us. If a black person were to like call you one of those things, it'd just be like, ha. It'd be kind of funny, you know, you'd like laugh and you'd be like, well, whatever, dude. Air out your frustrations or whatever. I don't fucking care. There's nothing that really, you know, we have any history with that chains us down, that historically has been used to beat us down in like any meaningful way. It's funny, kinda. Plus, you know, I don't really want to use do that, because then what was the whole point of the video? Like, so that I could end it with some kind of thing that denigrates you as like a white person or something, is like some kind of reversal. This is supposed to be about being above that and like caring about people just by their innate human dignity. But I guess there is one white cis male. Goodbye, Digi.